Well, as soon as we start, the train goes by.
It does it every time.
Oh man, they do. Welcome back to the Career Marketing Podcast. We're at the Twisted Willow barbershop, and this is Aaron.
What's up?
Aaron says, "What's up?" I'm excited to be here. We scheduled this 2 weeks out, and he was super cool with it. And it's probably one of the easiest podcasts I've had to schedule. So, what were you doing before you started cutting hair?
So before I was cutting hair, I was actually selling cars. I was working at a dealership in Lexington, and worked at a couple other dealerships prior to that. And it's just I didn't really have a life. I wasn't around my family. I was working 6 days a week plus, just nonstop, go, and I had to make a change. And I had a cousin that went to barber school, and he kind of was pushing me to do it. And my mom was like, yeah, that'd probably be a good idea. And my wife was like, whatever you want to do. So, yeah. And she's like, anything would be better than where it is right now. So that's how I ended up in barber school.
Yeah, family will give you a dream sometimes. Yeah, it really will. So since you've been doing it, has it been like, that experience people say they knew when they were a kid, and like they just fell in love with it, went to college and did it. So whenever you started doing it, did you get that same feeling that people describe?
I had no clue. My mother was a cosmetologist, and I had no clue I was ever going to be cutting hair.
Yeah.
Ever. And when I was in school, I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to either do anesthesia or be work with kids, like a pediatrician type deal. And I had no clue I'd ever be a barber or be doing what I'm doing right now. But I'm thankful for the people that I had in my life that kind of steered me in the direction of doing this, because I wouldn't be where I'm at right now if it wasn't for that, and the kind of home time that I have now, the kind of time that I can bring my kid in here with me and my oldest son, and we can spend time together all day. And, I couldn't do it. And there ain't no other job where I can just bring my kid to work and be like, all right, man, hang out,
Yeah.
You can't do that everywhere. So it was one of them kind of things. It's really good to me is to be able to spend time with my family. Now we got 2 more. We got a little girl, and our youngest little boy he's 7, almost 8 weeks right now. So, it's been crazy.
So how big is the family now?
Yeah. So like I said, there's me and my wife and my oldest son Josiah, and then Lydia Mae, and then our youngest Abijah Avery. So there's 5 of us. We got a full house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I saw, the first time I walked in, I saw a big old picture of your son playing football.
Yeah.
Does he want to be a football star, or is he interested in cutting hair?
He's definitely not interested in cutting hair as of just yet. He told me the other day, he's like, Dad, it's kind of weird, you touching people's heads all day. He's like, I don't know how I feel about that, Dad. It's kind of weird, man. And the football thing, like, he's still young, and he doesn't have the tenacity or the drive. He really don't know what he wants to do with himself. So it's like he plays football, and he's pretty good at it. His team won a championship this year, and that's awesome. But I think it'll be, by the time he's in like middle school before we really know what he's going to do with that. Yeah. Or what he's going to figure out what he's going to do. I don't know. So.
So how long you been doing this? Did you cut hair before opening this, or did you go right into open it?
So, I went to barber school in January of 2016, and I started cutting hair in a shop in March of 17. So 17, 18, 20. So it's 2022. So where's that put me at? 17, 8. So
that's 5 years, right?
5 years. Yeah, I'm right at 5 years doing this. And it seems like a blur because there's a lot of people, that I've cut their hair, whether it be here or at another shop. I've had people that I cut in 2017 track me down and come down here and get a haircut at this shop. I had a guy drive from Red River Gorge the other day. I've got a guy that drives from almost Louisville.
Dang.
About once a month, he comes in here and gets a haircut. And that makes me feel really good knowing that people are willing to drive an hour and a half plus to come get a haircut. Like I didn't realize that it was going to be that big of a deal, but it's starting to be more and more that big of a deal. Where I'm having people travel from out of the county, out of the surrounding counties, coming in to get haircuts. But back to your question, when I got out of barber school, I worked at a shop in Lexington, and it wasn't really for me. The shop, the way it looked, was fantastic. It looked like it'd been there since 1940 or 1950, yeah. And I loved that. But the way the shop was set up, as far as how we got paid and how it all worked, it wasn't the best for me. I didn't like it. I didn't like the way all that, the backside of it was, yeah. And I'll be honest, I got out of barbering. I quit for about 7 or 8 months, and I was like, if that's what barbering is, then I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. If that's what barbering is, I don't want it. So I left there, and I went and did some millwright work, hanging steel, stuff like that. Building machines, putting them together, setting them, and when I came back into barbering, I was working at a shop in Stanford, Kentucky, and those guys, the one that lives almost in Louisville, yeah, popped up in Stanford, Kentucky. He seen that I posted on Facebook that I was cutting hair again, and I was like, holy crap. And then I started having guys drive from Lexington and Nicholasville, and people that had came and seen me at that first shop started driving to Stanford to see me. And I've been out of the business for 7-8 months and haven't cut any of them's hair, in 7 or 8 months. And they're like, oh man, we heard you're cutting hair again, we're going to come see you. So that's when I think I really realized, like, I might be all right at this. Yeah. Maybe this is what I need to be doing, And then the guy I worked with there, he was really cool. He was a really good guy. And I ended up getting an opportunity to go to Richmond. And I went over to a shop there right off of Big Hill Avenue. And I worked there for probably 7 or 8 months. And then I kind of got recruited to go to a big shop in Richmond. They were like, hey, this guy left. We want you to come over here and work with us. So I went over there, and that place was what really opened my eyes, I guess, because the first shop that I'd worked at was an appointment-only shop, and it kind of had this exclusivity to it. Yeah. The next 2 shops that I'd worked at, the one in Stanford, the one in Richmond, the first one in Richmond was, just here. I'll hold it. Oh, that's fine. The second 2 shops that I worked at, they were more like they were good old boy cuts, just high and tights, flat tops, just in and out, Well, when I went to the shop I worked at before here, it's up in Richmond, right off the bypass there. When I went there, it was like back-to-back, nonstop. And it wasn't just the good old boy cuts. It wasn't just high and tights and flat tops. It was a whole wide spectrum, and it was just nonstop, as hard as you could go. And I was like, holy crap, man, what have I got myself into? Because, you had people coming in there that were wanting, like, pompadours and slick backs and, hard parts and... and then, I even had guys on the EKU football team that were coming in, and they were wanting, like, them little taper fades and... Yeah. Like, it was just a broad spectrum. It was just like a melting pot of people coming in there. And it really changed the way I barber. It didn't change my foundation, the foundation that I had in barbering, but it changed my mindset to where I don't care about texture of your hair, how coarse or how fine it is or not. Like, I've done so many haircuts that I just had to figure it out. I had to figure. I didn't have a choice. There's some shops that they only cut straight, straight hair. And then there's other shops that only do curly hair. And then, like that place was just a huge melting pot of all these different, like just a conglomerate, and that really kind of changed, like I said, the way that I barbered and the way that I looked at it. And when I left there, it was right after the pandemic had ended. Well, it hadn't ended, but it had kind of eased up, and they were starting to let us cut hair again because we got cut off. We couldn't cut hair for it was like 3 or 4 months, something like that. And I left there, and to be honest, the biggest reason I left there was because I wanted to do appointments. I was like, let me do appointments. I'll just cut my people. And then if I have time in between, I'll pick up walk-ins to help the shop, help the general walk-in traffic. But that wasn't an option in that shop. So that's what brought me to where I'm at now, because now I do primarily appointment only, but I also offer walk-in availability. If I have time in between a haircut, I'll get somebody, but I've got to the point now that I'm so busy that I don't have time for walk-ins, which has really started to help Mark, because where Mark is fresh out of school, it's gave him the opportunity to be able to pick up a lot of that overflow that I can't get to. I can't physically do it. I can't get them all, So it's really helping him out. But did that answer your question?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I got on this big tangent, but
no, it was good.
It was like,
it just reminded me of when I first walked in. I started talking to Mark, and Mark was describing what he was doing before he came in and how you got him in. And it's interesting. It kind of sounds like you guys are doing the same thing. And this is his first shop, right?
Yeah, this is the only place Mark's ever worked.
And he's talking about how much he really loves it. So for both of you guys, who I assume you went a little later in life to barber school, and Mark definitely did. So what's the feeling like of doing this? And it's like, I actually like this.
Well, I don't know how many people I've told this to, and but it's really not like I'm going to work every day. Like, yeah, I go to work and I make money. I have bills. I have things that stress me out. I got 3 kids and a wife and a mother-in-law, and so I mean, I got all them things going on. But like in here, in this, inside these 4 walls that take care of me and my family, I'm really just in here shooting the shit with my buddies. That's it. That's really what it comes down to. Because, like, I mean, it's even to the point that my little girl thinks everybody in here is our family. Yeah. So my little girl, she'll just climb in somebody's lap and not even care. Like, she's just like, hey, what's going on, and start talking to them. Because she thinks everybody in here is family. And that's kind of what it feels like, It's like, I'm in here just hanging out with my buddies. And yeah, they're getting a haircut or a beard trim or a face shave or whatever, but it's not work. It doesn't feel like work. Like, yeah, at the end of the day, I'm wore out. I'm mentally exhausted because I've stood here and I've had, 10 to 15 different conversations with different people about different things, and my mind is just racing, and it takes me a minute to unwind, And yeah, I'm standing in here on my feet all day, and most days I don't get a break. Most days I don't take a lunch. Occasionally, if we're not busy, we'll take a lunch break or something, but it's starting to get more and more like we're just busy all the time. Yeah. Just constant.
So I saw, speaking of busy, because every time I walk in here, you guys are cutting. Every time. And I guess it's been maybe 3 times I've come in, and I see I think the 3rd barber chair. You guys thinking about bringing in another one?
Well, yeah, I've actually got somebody in mind, just depending on how things go and stuff like that. And we've got a few things we got to iron out with what that's going to be, But I think there's a pretty fair chance that within the next few weeks we may end up adding another barber in here. So I'm looking forward to it. and growing is a good thing. And I've got a lot of changes that I'm wanting to make to this place. You know, this it ain't gonna look like it looks right now. That's for sure. You know.
Yeah. Speaking of looks, I did want to ask about that because this barbershop reminds me of what, because you talked about this earlier, the 40s and the 50s, and it looks like one of those old school barbershops.
Yeah.
And it gives you that really nice family feeling, like you were saying, coupled with the fact that you have an owner and another barber that's make you feel like family when you walk in. So what's drawing you to some of that old school barbershop look?
Well, when I was in barber school, there was a couple guys from Rotterdam that started a barber shop. It was actually 11 years ago, like 2 or 3 days ago. Like they just celebrated their 11th anniversary at their barber shop, and in their town in Rotterdam, they there wasn't another barber shop. It was all salons. And they were actually going to name it like the Great American Barbershop because that's what they wanted. They wanted that 1940s, 1950s, early 1960s barbershop feel, And they ended up not naming it that. They ended up naming it Shwarm. But that shop really, it wasn't just that shop. It was their techniques, the way that they cut hair, and it ain't necessarily to say it was their technique. It was just their style was a big part of my foundation, and those old school haircuts that really boomed in the 2014 up until here recently. And I mean they're still pretty popular. The old school haircuts, the pompadours and side parts and all that stuff. That was really the feel that they had, and I think me being so into what them guys were doing, I think that's what's really pushed me towards that old school barbershop feel. Because I mean that's really where my passion is. Like I said, I mean I do the low tapers, I do the the low skin and razor fades, and I do some of this new age stuff. But I've also got a really solid foundation and an old school technique that has honestly been forgotten. I mean, in the 70s and the 80s, that was kind of the dark ages for barbershops because a lot of people were growing their hair out. They were letting it get longer.
Oh, yeah, true.
Yeah, so, I mean, I talked to a barber that he had barbered for almost 45, 50 years, something like that. And he said in the 70s he actually went back to school to learn how to cut long hair. Yeah. So that he could offer that in his shop. And he said that's what got his family through the 70s was because everybody had long hair and he had to know how to cut long hair. Yeah. So, but those old school traditions and that old style of cutting hair has really, it's really been forgotten, especially in smaller towns. Smaller towns typically have that flat top look.
Yeah.
Military style haircuts.
Yeah, those. My mom tried to do that. She tried to. I went from having braids, which I hated because you get made fun of at school, and then the military style haircut. And I was like, I cannot do. I'll run away from home. The dramatic teenager. I'm gonna run away. That was me. But speaking of the old style, you were showing me the blades that they used to cut, basically, I think beers usually.
It was a razor, yeah.
Yeah, the razors, and how I was saying that they look blunt and how they cut, and you were cutting with it. Yeah. So can you explain how those work? Because I don't think any of us who doesn't cut hair really understand, because we watch the movies and we're like, it's just the old school way of doing it, but none of us really know how those blades work.
So along the edge of those blades, it's just a really thin. I think now typically they're all stainless steel, but it's just like your Gillettes or anything else. It's just a really thin blade. And the straight razors that we use in here, we have changeable blades so that whenever we shave somebody's face or shave somebody's neck, we can replace that blade with a new one. And then we've got a clean sanitary razor to use on the next person, And the old ones that they used back in the 40s and 50s, those, you might get 100, you might get 125 shaves out of those, and then they had to be honed again.
Yeah.
And you have to hone them and strop them and sharpen them back up. Well, the ones that we have, we just pull them out and put a new cartridge in, and shave away. But that's basically all it is. It's the same thing. It's just like the safety razors they had back in the 60s and 70s and 80s, or maybe even before. I think they may have had them a little bit before that. They just had a double-edged razor that set down on the top of it, and then you twist the bottom and it closed the top on it. It's basically the same thing.
Okay.
Is that?
That makes sense. So, who's hunting? Because as soon as I walked in, I see, and I used to hunt, and I'm like, oh, this feels like my house. I walked in. Outside the barber stuff, it feels like my house. You got the deer, and the guy just brought in a duck. Yeah. So, are you hunting, or is he hunting and bring you stuff?
Well, I don't hunt a whole lot anymore, and I haven't since I was a kid. I'm really into fishing. That's my thing. So, I need to get some fish to hang on the walls in here. I actually, he's the administrator for the Kentucky Board of Barbering. I actually purchased some chairs off him, and that deer and that turkey fan were in his barber shop before he became the administrator for the Kentucky Board of Barbering. And his father had killed both of those, and he said that if he kept them, they were just going to collect dust in his garage, and then if I wanted them to hang in the barber shop, which is where they need to be, he said, I'd rather see them in a barber shop as to sit here and just collect dust in my garage, because I'm not going to do anything with them. Yeah. So he ended up throwing those in whenever I bought some chairs off of him. So
I know some guys that would rather something rust away than to give it to anyone else. So that's a nice thing of him to do.
It was.
So why the Twisted Willow? Where'd you get this name from?
So I actually did an interview with, I believe it was Berea Tourism, and they asked me the same question. And the thing that really initiated it was, like, I was in a group chat with some of my buddies and my cousins and Mark, and we were just throwing names around, trying to figure out what we were going to call the shop. We had found a building. I secured the building, and I'm like, oh man, we got to come up with a name, like we got to have something to call it, And there was an excerpt from this new TV series, Yellowstone, and it was this cowboy talking to one of the women in the show, and he told her, he said, you're either born a willow or you're born an oak. It's just the way it is. And that really hit home to me, because I feel like, there's some people that are oaks, that are meant to be out here. They thrive working in, hard, or physical labor type jobs, and then you have people that are willows, that are, I'm not going to say softer, but they just they're not cut out to do some of those jobs,
Yeah, me.
Me. I've done physical labor my entire life. I've worked in weld shops, fab shops. I've worked in every factory within a 40-mile radius of Mount Vernon, Kentucky. I feel like, and I've been all over this country. I've been to Indiana, Illinois. I've been to Missouri. I've been to Texas, working, doing physical labor jobs. And it's not that I'm too good to do that. It's just that I don't really thrive there. I'm a people person, and I love people, and I don't want to be stuck out there looking at a cinder block all day or swinging a hammer all day or doing, I'd rather be face to face with people. And I think that's really what it comes down to is, there's some people that can bend and flex with what's going on around them and kind of, make their way without having to beat themselves to death to do it.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to say that's, that's why we named it the Twisted Willow, The more I've thought about it, and the more that I really, I guess took more into consideration the the Willow, when we finally decided, when I was like, we're going to call it the Twisted Willow. This is it. This is what it's going to be. I really started thinking about my mom because my mom was a cosmetologist. She cut hair, and she really pushed me to go through school. And she passed away when I was in school. She died December 3rd of 16, and I didn't get out of school until March of 17. So, and to be honest, if it hadn't been for her, I wouldn't have made it as far as I had in school. Just for her helping us out and stuff like that, just we used to. I mean, I can't even begin to tell you how much that she done to help us. But if it hadn't been for her and my cousin Dakota and a few other close people, none of this would even be a thing. But my mom was what I would call probably a twisted willow. She was one of them people that could, cuss you and tell you I love you all in the same sentence. She was one of them kind of people. It's just how she was. And I'm not necessarily that kind of person. But my mom was one of them kind of people. And I think it's just fitting. It fits. And it means something to me now. This company and what we're about in here, and the quality over quantity, just having, I don't even know how to say what I'm trying to say. Just having this kind of mindset over what we're doing, that is the Twisted Willow. Just doing it the right way the first time. That kind of ideology.
Man, I thought it was a beautiful name and a beautiful logo, and it's a little bit of bias because I have a tree as my logo as well. So I was like, anyone with a tree, I'm like, that's cool. But the way you explain it is even more beautiful than what I could have imagined it to be. But so speaking of that and this building and the things you want to do with it, so in comes the third barber. You guys are already rolling, and they're picking up business too. How long are you going to be here? Because eventually, either you got to knock this wall down and put a whole bunch of more chairs right here, or we got to get you a bigger building.
Well, I don't have any intentions of really leaving this building unless something, out of my control, some unknown variable out of my control, something happens that I have to leave this building. I don't plan on leaving. Because the way that I plan on changing some of this stuff in here is like, I'm going to try to move the waiting room to the front of the building. I'm going to put one big long bar down this side of the wall and have the chairs back to back down this wall. And if I have to, I'll put a couple chairs on that side over here. And then, I plan on I'm going to change the ceiling. I'm going to have a floor put in here. I'm going to try to put some trim around the walls, some crown molding and some baseboard. And I even thought about doing a chair railing around the middle of the wall and just kind of changing it up and giving it a different vibe, a different feel. I've got 10 million ideas on what I want to do, but I know for a fact there's going to be a bar down this wall. Mm-hmm. It's going to come from the corner all the way up, and I'm going to have at least 4 chairs, if not 5, I can fit on this wall and still have room in the front to put a waiting lounge, because like as far as these chairs are apart right now, they don't have to be that far apart. They're so far apart right now that we're actually wasting space, but it makes it look a little fuller, so it's okay. But once we get more barbers in here and we get this bar put in and get it looking the way that, going in the right direction anyway, we're really going to see what kind of space we got. And by the time we get the waiting room up there in the front, and I plan on putting in maybe like a small bar where you can come in and get a drink whenever you come in, which we got the fridge full of sodas and water, and eventually I'm gonna try to keep a few beers in there and stuff like that. That way, if you want to drink, if you're over 21 and you want to drink, you can get a drink, and it's on the house. It'll just be included with the haircut, no extra charge.
Yeah.
Just try to give people some options when they come in. As to what they want. Obviously early in the morning, they're probably not going to come in and drink a brewski or pour a bourbon. I'm sure there's some people that might, but there'll be soda and water and coffee as well. Just try to cover everybody.
There's one thing I wanted to make sure I asked before I get out of here was obviously you see that I'm struggling in this department, okay? And it's probably genetic, but I have tried every possible beard oil I can do to get this thing to grow. And the older I've gotten, the more it's grown, and it seems to do it by itself. But you obviously have the best genetics in the world. Your beard is amazing. And it's trimmed too, it's great. And he's showing it off now. He's doing that. And you have this beard oil station, and it's really nice. It's really nice. So what do you recommend, and what do you use for your beards? And what do you recommend for people who can't really grow one?
All right. So as far as beard oils, I'm a big fan of Goat Scruff. Jason Baker out of Crab Orchard, Kentucky. He's actually from here in Berea. I'm pretty sure his dad used to be the postmaster here in Berea. But Jason, he's a great dude. He makes the majority of our beard oils. Like I say majority, he basically about 99%. Occasionally I'll get some Ruzel beard oil, but I don't typically have it in stock. It's primarily just the Goat Scruff beard oil out of Crab Orchard, Kentucky, and his beard oils have like vitamin A, vitamin E. They've got a lot of different things that are really healthy for your skin, because it's really what beard oil is about. It's not really about the beard. Your face secretes a natural oil called sebum, and your beard will soak that oil up, and that's what makes it look shiny and nice. Well, that beard oil is to replenish your skin with those oils that it's lost. That's the reason it's got vitamin A and vitamin E and these different things that are good for your skin, which in turn will, help keep your beard healthy and keep your skin healthy. As far as growing a beard, genetics play a big factor.
Hope you didn't say that.
So I have seen a few things out there now. There's this new dermabrasion roller that everybody's been going on about, and it's kind of like, the hair loss programs that they, you have Bosley and Propecia, and you have all these different, hair companies that are telling you, oh, put this on your head or take this and it'll make your hair grow back. Well, that's not going to work for everybody. That's the reason you have mixed reviews on it. You have some people that are like, man, my hair grew back, it looks great, or, this or that. Well, that dermabrasion roller, it's about that wide, and it's probably big around as a quarter. It's got tiny needles on it. It's supposed to, you roll it on your face after you get out of the shower, and it's supposed to open up the pores or increase blood flow to the skin. I've heard success with those, but as far as me personally, I've never used one. And it may work for somebody else. It might not work for you, or it may work for you and not for somebody else. I don't know. That's a really tricky question, because it's just like with hair loss. You have people that are balding or have a receding hairline, or like, hey, what can I do for this? And it's kind of like, there's different products that are out there, but you're going to have to figure out which one works for you, because they may not, it may work for me but not work for you. I mean, there's just a million different things. There's too many variables.
Yeah.
In that, so it's hard to say.
That is bad news. That is bad news. That's really bad news. But where can we find Twisted Willow at? I know we can find you on Facebook. Where else you got the barbershop?
So we're on Facebook. We're on Instagram. The Twisted Willow Barbershop. We're also on Google, and I've been we do our booking through Squire, and we've got somewhat of it isn't really a website, but it's like a booking system where you can go on there. You'll be able to pick your barber, pick what day, pick what time, pick what service, and get all that set up. I think it actually goes in like pick your barber, pick your service, then your day, then your time, in that order. But it's just real simple, real easy. And there's a book now option on Google, on Facebook, and Instagram. You can just click book now and book your appointment. I'm actually planning on having or putting a post up about me going to appointment only without walk-in availability. Mark will still be doing walk-ins as he can based around his appointments, but he's starting to get more and more appointments. And then when we get our third barber in here, depending on how they do, could decide whether they'll be doing just walk-ins or appointments based on what clientele they have. So it's really easy to find us. So I mean, you don't have to look very hard.
Yeah. I just wanted to make sure. I know people have a lot of different places that they're on, and some people have like one place you can find them. Mm-hmm. So, but make sure you go and follow them on everywhere he just listed. And thank you for having us. Yeah, well, I say us, but thank you for having me. I'm used to my sound person being here, so I say us. But thank you for having me, man. I appreciate that.
No problem.
Anything you want to say before we get out of here?
I'm good.
All right. Make sure you come and get your hair cut. He cuts everything. You've heard him say it. No excuses. He cuts everything. All right. See you guys next time. Oh, man.